Three out of the four matches of the 2024-2025 CAF Champions League quarterfinals have officially been played. We're going to break down all of that and more coming up next on the African Five-A-Side podcast. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the African Football Report on the African Five-A-Side podcast. I'm Maher Mezahi. I'm your host, and as always, this is brought to you by africasaCountry.com. I read a really interesting article. It dates all the way back from March called Redefining Sahelian Diplomacy, talking about, the AES, the new entity, the new alliance, I should say, of Sahel states, Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger, breaking away from ECOWAS and going their own direction. And it's particularly interesting to me because there's a little bit of tension between Algeria and Mali at the moment, unfortunately. So, just yeah, whenever you want to learn something new about the African continent, um, go to africascountry.com. Anyways, let's talk about football. That's why we're really here. Um, Oh, sorry. If you want a link for the previous story, of course, as always, it's in the description below. So, the first match that I want to talk about because it's the match I watched in full, live, not live in the stadium, but I mean like in television, completely concentrated on it, was Mamelodi Sundowns versus Esperance de Tunis. Um, First thing I'd say is you flip on the TV, Radis at night, Champions League. It's like, you know how they say like those Anfield nights in the CAF Champions League. Not exactly the same thing, but a little bit. There's something special about that stadium, even though it's never 100% full. Something special about it. Like in the Champions League, watching Esperance, it feels right. And it was cool to see, I thought, the choreography, the tifo from the Esperance Ultras, because I didn't know what the hell Toko Loshe was. I don't know if you guys did, particularly speaking to the South Africans now, because the Esperance de Tunis Ultras revealed a choreography at Tigo that says Toko Loshe haunts. And the choreography had a picture of a Sundown supporter scared, surrounded by skulls, and an Esperance supporter, like almost like taunting him a little bit. Um, so I didn't know what Tokoloshi was, so I had to Google it, and I found out it's like some kind of like, weird spirit, juju kind of black magic curse kind of thing. Um, that's prevalent, not prevalent, but that's, a part of South African cultural heritage. And the South Africans that I saw that I spoke to thought it was hilarious. But for me, what I loved about it so much was that I just learned something new about South Africa. I learned a new word. I learned, a new concept. Uh, these are the reasons why I love African football so much because ultimately, at the end of the day, I end up learning more about the African continent through African football. And I think the Ultras in North Africa do a really great job of researching their opponents, finding something that, will resonate with them, and then sending that message out prior to the match. So I thought it was pretty funny. Um, I'd like to know what your guys' reaction were, particularly speaking to the South Africans on this channel. So yeah, that was cool. They also had a nice one of Yusuf Bileli, the left winger, in a cowboy hat. I think that one means more like we want to go to, America at the Club World Cup. They're going to go anyways. They've already qualified. But I think it was also showing support for Yusuf Bileli because I think he's facing a ban in the domestic league after he had an obscene gesture to opposing fans a few months ago. And yeah, I think this week he had to appear in front of the disciplinary committee of the Tunisian Football Federation. And so I think that was just shows us some support for him as well. But yeah, kickoff starts, and it's the atmosphere that we're expecting. Lasers everywhere, the whistling, which, as I'm informed now, actually doesn't really phase South African footballers because I guess that it's a show of support in South Africa. But all of that said, Esperance almost get off to a perfect start. Within the very first minute, they win a free kick on the left flank. Youssef Beledi puts in a delicious ball, and the Algerian center half Mohamed Amin Tougai gets a side foot to it, and I think he actually deviates the ball pretty well on goal. And Ronwen Williams has one of the better reaction saves of the entire CAF Champions League to this date. I mean, that save at that moment in the match was absolutely key because if they concede there, 89 minutes to go, maybe it would force Esperance to play even a little more attacking. It's not like they sat back, but maybe it forced them to be a little more gamble a little bit more. maybe mentally it would affect, the player's psyche a little bit more. But that save at that moment in time, that quickly from the kickoff, I think that was probably the key of the entire match, to be honest. If I would say one action or one sequence was the most influential on the entire match, it would probably be that Ronwen Williams save in the very first minute. Um, Other than that, I thought it was really cool to see Sundowns after that dominate possession. Really, for the first 10 minutes, they put their foot on the ball. They got in, they spaced out Esperance. Esperance, if they tried to chase or if they tried to press, they would get the ball passed around them. Didn't seem like Esperance were trying to be too vertical anyways. It just seemed like they were trying to get the foot on the ball, slow the pace of the rhythm of the match down, cool those nerves a little bit, especially after that first dangerous chance. And I thought that was very effective actually, because after those 10 minutes, it's like, okay, now Sundowns are in the game, now they have their second win about them. Uh, Now we can start playing football. Other than that, I thought Lucas Ribeiro looked very sharp early. A few times he gets the ball on the right wing. He's left-footed, right? And he has his back to goal. Maybe he's at the halfway line. He's far away from goal. He has his back to goal. And instead of turning, into the field, he turns towards the touch line and accelerates away from the left back Amin bin Hamida. I thought he looked very physically sharp more than anything, mentally and physically. But physically, he was running away from defenders um, in a way that I hadn't seen him do really since the Orlando Pirates match when he was running away from. He ran that 50-yard run and then scored, with the cross shot across the face of goal. Um, so at Ribeiro, I thought, yeah, carried the ball very well. Was a technical leader in those first 30 minutes. Now, Esperance, on the other hand, when they were looking to their technical leaders, to their left-footed winger playing on the right wing, Yan Sassi, another Brazilian, I thought they were so disappointing, particularly Yan Sass. If I had more time, I would compile like every single touch that he had in this match, and I think it was one of the worst performances I have ever seen from a big name player at this point in the competition. Um, I would even say it's the worst performance I've seen him put in this Esperance shirt. He would, when he received the ball, the touch would be off. When he was trying to pass, he would misplace a pass. Um, everything was off, everything. And he was like still complaining and his egos. It doesn't seem like he's happy at Esperance anymore. And to exacerbate matters, he wasn't the only one like that. The very highly rated attacking midfielder from Cote d'Ivoire, Abdurrahman Konate, similar, like just had another off game, and both of them now have two consecutive off games, home and away against Mamelodi Sundowns. And to be fair, in the first match, tactically they were not put in a position where they could excel because they were mostly defending and sitting back. But still, I expect them to do much better, especially those two players. Even the striker, another Brazilian, Rodrigo Rodriguez. To be fair, I think it was his first match back in 4 or 5 months or something like that. He definitely hadn't played in the Champions League before. I mean, in this season, and so he was completely invisible. But maybe you can find an excuse for him because you could say he's just coming back to fitness. But the others, the only player that showed up for Esperance early from an attacking sense was Youssef Belali. In the 35th minute, he gets a ball, turns on the defender, puts in a low cross that Rodrigo Rodriguez couldn't get on the end of. Um, and you could see Esperance was starting to build a little bit of momentum towards the end of the first half because until that point, Sundowns were controlling possession, as I said, like calming things. At the 37th minute, the graphic came up and they had 42 to 58% possession. Mamelodi Sundowns did. So Esperance was trying to push forward, but as soon as they did in the final 5 minutes of the first half, that's when Mamelodi Sundowns got their two best attempts. Because prior to that, they were controlling the rhythm of the match, but they were not really creating too much. But first thing you have is a transition break. I think Ribeiro picks a pocket of a player. He cuts in and shoots wide, tries to get to the second post with a curling shot just wide. And then just a second later, Mamelodi Sundowns are passing the ball around. It seems like Esperance are trying to press. They're, they weren't doing that really for a lot of the first half, but towards the end of the first half, they were trying to suffocate them and Sundowns just beautifully, calmly passing the ball around them. The ball finds its way all the way to Marcelo Allende as they move it. I think it was like maybe 10 to 15 passes. Marcelo Allende is in the opposite end. I think it was Lunga, Shalolile, Allende, and Allende opens his body up and another curling shot. This one smacks off the crossbar. That was a beautiful shot from about 30 yards. And man, if he scores there, then Esperance have to score 3 goals. That would have been a massive body blow for the hosts. It's a game of inches football, as we're going to talk about in the second half, but again, little more whip on the ball. And that's a one of the goals of the season, and that probably is game over right there and then for the Tunisian side. So I thought overall Sundowns were better in the first half. Esperance were still playing with, I felt like a little bit of a handbrake on. They don't want to throw themselves forward too much for fear of conceding. Um, and I thought they were a little bit outplayed, but overall, I think both sides were still okay with where they were at the end of the first half. Like they were still obviously clearly in the match. Both of them were. I think Esperance, the message probably at halftime was like, all right, let's keep things calm. We know we're going to have to increase pressure at some point and try to, go all hands on deck at one point in this match, but it's not yet. So let's make sure we don't concede, and so on and so forth. And I think Sundowns were saying, all right, good job keeping the ball, neutralizing everything. Let's focus on making sure we double up on the wings when Yusuf Beledi cuts in. Those would be my messages, and it seems like that's probably what the coaches were saying at halftime as well. At half, Maher Mezahi, the Esperance coach, I thought made a good move when he brought in striker Ashraf Jabri for Rodrigo Rodriguez, who obviously I didn't think looked fit. And then he brings on Jbali for Konate. And good subs, I thought, because Konate, Rodriguez, and Yan Sassi, as I mentioned, were horrible in the first half. But here, I think you need someone of a higher quality than Jbali. Jbali's not a horrible player, but man, we're playing against Mamelodi Sundowns. They have Lucas Ribeiro, they have Peter Shalilile, they have, we can't bring on Jbali against players like that. It shows the gulf of class, in my opinion. Um, so in the second half, we've still mostly had individual efforts from Yusuf Beledi. In the 48th minute, another free kick. I thought that's probably where he was most dangerous, was when he was crossing free kicks or hitting corners. Um, his cross ball just missed. In the 58th minute, he was beating Mudau to the byline, getting a cross in, but Sundowns defended that well. Thank the Lord, Alhamdulillah. In the 60th minute, Maher Kanzeri decides to pull Yansas, the Brazilian, and play Elias Mokwana. Him not starting Elias Mokwana was, I think, the most egregious decision that he made in his short time as Esperance coach. So he brings on Elias Mokwana, and it makes an immediate impact. In the 63rd minute, Esperance Tunis scores. And it's Ashraf Jabri, the substitute. And it's another one of those route one goals, like Esperance scored against Mamelodi Sundowns last year in Pretoria, where it's just like a long ball over the top, and the striker gets on the end of it, and yeah, here it was a long ball from Bushniba, who scored in Pretoria last year, and Ashraf Jabri finds a little bit of space between the two center halves, and he sees Ronwen Williams rushing out of goal, and Jabri just chips him and scores. And pandemonium in Radis. You could tell everybody was. I like watching when you see a goal like this. Go back and watch um, the photographers around the boards, the police officers around the running track, the stewards, everybody that's supposed to be professional. You could tell they're like fans of Esperance, and they just lose it and they start running around as well, which is I always think it's endearing. It's a nice thing to see. Um, yeah. So of course, as you probably all know, actually before we speak about VAR here. Ronwen Williams at the end of the first half did something similar. In the 45th minute, 2 minutes into extra time. So really it was like the last action of the first half. A ball came through over the top and he read it really well, showed anticipation, and I think he used his head at the edge of the box. I think some Esperance supporters are saying he touched his hand and then his head, so he should have been, a free kick and a red card and everything. But I don't think it's a clear. I haven't seen a clear view of that. But he anticipates the ball and clears it, and he was doing that really well, really throughout this entire year. Is reading the situation, if there are any through balls, getting out there and playing that sort of sweeper keeper role. He, I thought I made a note in the first half, like he's doing this very well. And then in the second half, he kind of got punished for it. So it's one of those again where I think in a match like this where one goal means so much, maybe don't be too ambitious with that. I think, like because here I thought him rushing out to Jebri, I think that's what really hurt Esperance for the goal, because the you can't do much about the long ball. Um, the player, getting between the center halves, yeah, maybe you could be a little more organized in defense, but Rano and rushing out, if he didn't rush out and stayed in his goal, I think the defenders would have caught up to Ashraf Jabri, and he would have had to hit a ball that probably would have been deflected, or there's no way he would have beat Ronwen Williams from 18-yard box from that angle. So yeah, just something to keep in mind for Ronwen. But anyways, the goal was obviously, as you know, disallowed. VAR check. The thing that annoyed me a little bit was that it took about 5 minutes to do the VAR check. And it annoyed the players and the fans and everybody. And even, I think Mamelodi Sundowns were trying to react, thinking they were down 1-0, and they pull off Arthur Salas and they bring on Ikram Rainers. They probably would have made that substitution anyways, but I think they wanted to make it in reaction to the goal. But the VAR check took so long that they managed to substitute the player on, and then they realized that the goal was offside. So they probably made a decision that was based on a fact of the match that ended up being disallowed after. So I would just hope that, as we progress in this competition, there's not many matches left. VAR checks will be hopefully a little more spunky. And even to be fair, the angle of the VAR, I'm not disputing the fact that he was offside. Obviously, everybody sees that it was extremely close, extremely close. But the angle that we get is not one that you could look at and say, oh, he's definitively offside. With in the UK when they do the Premier League VAR, they do that thing where I don't know, like it becomes like the overhead view when they draw the line, and then you could see exactly if it was his big toe or his slight shoulder that was offside. Do we do that in how do if that's the angle that the assistant referees were looking at, the video assistant referees were looking at, is the one that they showed us on television? I don't see how you can call that offside, in my opinion. Like I think there's a good chance that he was offside, but again, VAR should be used to correct clear and obvious errors. I don't see how you could overturn the initial decision of that being onside from that camera angle. Overall, not a big deal because, like I say, these are things that happen in football. Some calls are going to go for you, some calls are going to go against you. As I'm going to talk about later, I thought Mamelodi Sundowns were the way better side, anyways, over the two legs. But it would be cool to have some clarification on was that the angle that they used to make that decision? It's a little bit rough. Anyways, 5-minute VAR check. The final then we enter really into the last final 15 to 20 minutes of the match, and we talked about in the preview like that being a natural sort of moment in the match where uh no matter what your DNA is as a side, Sundowns, we know they like to play football, Pirates like to play football, Pyramids like to play football, Ahly same thing. They're not going to come back and try to park the bus, as we say in football. um no matter what your DNA is, when you get to that point of the match, you don't want to be naive, because if you can see they're on something that's considered naive, then the criticism is going to go crazy. So naturally, you just start to shrink a little bit, and I think that's what ends up happening. Esperance start to really get their foot on the ball, but no real chances. On the contrary, I think Sundowns were probably a little more dangerous over the last 15 minutes just from the counterattacks. I think we had one counter in the 84th minute where it was Reyners gets the ball across the pitch to Shalulile, who hits a shot straight at the Esperance goalkeeper, who punches it away. Uh, but they had a shot on goal. I don't even know if Esperance had one. The only real chance Esperance has is in the 95th minute where Koza comes on, the young Sundowns center half. He handles the ball on the edge of the box. Yusuf Belali lines it up. It's an indirect free kick. His teammate backheels it. He runs onto it, but he slips on the turf. And Ronwen Williams collects. So the ball, he didn't really get good contact on it. So it was very disappointing end to the match, and a disappointing, I think, end of the CAF Champions League campaign for Esperance de Tunis. I think I was one of the people that really had high hopes for them, especially after the summer transfer window. Think about it. They had Miguel Cardozo as a coach. They had a stacked squad. They made great signings in Konate, Belali, um, Olais Mokwana, Onuche Rubelu. Really, I thought they had the best transfer window out of anybody in Africa. But criticism has to go to the owner over here because he was way too trigger happy. He fires Miguel Cardozo, who comes back now and eliminates him from the CAF Champions League. How sweet must that feel for Cardozo? Fires Cardozo for, I know they got off to a little bit of a disappointing start in the league, but I mean, he could have easily caught up, Give him a little bit of time, a little bit of patience. He earned it, making it to the CAF Champions League final last year. Fires Cardozo, brings in Reggae, fires Reggae as well, even though his results were pretty decent. And I think that most of the reasons why they were drawing matches or losing matches was defensive mistakes that were individual defensive mistakes. But even if you're going to fire him, you fire him like, what, 10 to 14 days ahead of a CAF Champions League quarterfinal against Mamelodi Sundowns. And to bring in who? It's not like you're bringing in Jose Mourinho. I mean, all due respect to Maher Mezahi, I actually think he's a decent coach, but any coach with that little amount of time is not going to be able to do anything. You need to bring in somebody exceptional if you really think that they're going to do something within 10, 14 days. And Maher Mezahi, like I said, is a decent coach. I think he's a good coach. I respect him, but I don't, in my personal opinion, he's not an exceptional coach. Um, so yeah, I think really the buck stops with the owner, Hamdi Al-Medeb. I think he made a lot of strong decisions, daring decisions, and now he has to take full accountability for that. As for Mamelodi Sundowns, their third straight semi-final appearance, been getting to this stage of the competition and then been failing time and time again. This is probably going to be their toughest one against Al Ahly, against the side that won the last four out of. Oh, I just spoiled what Al Ahly did against Al Hilal, but you guys probably know. But it's the side against that won the last four out of five CAF Champions League titles. So third straight in semi-final. Haven't won a Champions League in 9 years now, since 2016. So really, this is a time to really, do it again, because 10 years is a long time for a club like Sundowns to not win a title of this importance. Um, so everyone knows what the goal is. It's to win the CAF Champions League. It's not just to win matches like this, even though it was important to win matches like this, uh, or to win ties like this against an opponent like Esperance Tunis. Overall, credit to Miguel Cardozo. I think Esperance were the much better side over the entire two legs. Esperance, sorry, did I say Sundowns? Sundowns were the better side over the two legs. Esperance were not brave enough or courageous enough in the first leg. Now you can compensate that by putting in a good performance in the second leg, but even in the second leg, if you just isolate those 90 minutes, I think Sundowns were the better side. So deserved, and very much looking forward to seeing Sundowns in the semis now. Now we're going to run through the next two matches quickly because unfortunately, again, I couldn't find the full matches. Please, if anybody has an idea on how to download these full matches, or watch these full matches legally or illegally, I'm your man. Let me know on Twitter. Let me know on TikTok, wherever. So I got to watch the first half of AFR versus Pyramids and the second half of Al Hilal versus Al Ahly. Um, and I thought I actually picked up a few interesting points for both. Um, the first thing I would say is let's start with AFR against Pyramids. AFR land up in a 4-2-3-1, typical. That's how they've been playing all year. Pyramids land up in a 4-3-3, but they were playing kind of conservative. For example, Karim Hafiz, who's a left back, was playing on the left wing instead of Ibrahim Adal, the attacking midfielder that's been probably the best player in the Champions League this year. So I kind of wondered how they would approach this match, but it seems like they were doing the cautious thing of, all right, let's just make sure we don't concede three goals here. And I think that's the approach that I would have taken, as I mentioned earlier. But I mean, I don't know if it was the right approach. So I probably would have been wrong too, because as you can see here, the thing I would say is, like in Tunisia, in Morocco, the atmosphere was intense, even though they're not playing in Rabat, they're playing in Meknes, so hundreds of kilometers away. Or is it 100 kilometers? I'll check that geography. Actually, let me check geography right now. Apologies. Meknes has to be more than 100. Rabat, 145 kilometers away. Anyway, sorry. It was gonna bother me if I didn't check that even live. So yeah, anyways, 145 kilometers away. Still a really good atmosphere, and that helps the team get off to a quick start. So, uh, in the second minute, Herimet, who is their captain, the 34-year-old in the deep lying midfielder role, he plays a long ball to Yusuf Al Fahli, who you could immediately tell his speed is going to trouble the center half pairing that Pyramids have of Ali Gabr and Mohamed Mur'i. Um, in the first 3 minutes, I counted three chances. One from Zahzouh, one from Fahli, and I forget who the third one is from. But that's to show you the intensity and the prolific nature of ASFAR in the first leg. Sorry, there's pigeons just. I don't know if you guys can hear them or not, but just having an all-out war on my balcony over here, so they keep distracting me. Um, in the 8th minute, ASFAR score a beautiful goal, and uh, I love this goal tactically speaking. Maybe if I have time, I'm gonna break it down for you. But if you're not watching on YouTube, or if I don't have the time to post the goal, on this channel on YouTube, go and look up this goal. Pause this video and go and look up this goal of AFR versus Pyramids. You have Zahzour, who's the left winger, right? But he's a creative left winger who likes to cut in. He leaves his post and drifts central. Okay. Then you have Eitwer Khan, the center attacking midfielder for ASFAR. He leaves the center part of the pitch and he takes the half space lane and he makes that run. And the ball comes in from I forget who. I think it's I forget who. It might be even from the left back, Tokarnero. Comes into Eitwer Khan. Eitwer Khan, great first touch. And then, or sorry, the ball goes into Al Fahli. Al Fahli, great first touch. Like the ball comes in maybe 30 yards away with his wrong foot, his left foot. Beautiful first, just one touch. In onto the path of Eitwer Khan, who's making that run on the half space. And then Al Fahli immediately breaks, gets central. Eitwer Khan gets his head up, provides the cutback, and Al Fahli. And the technique on the finish too. He didn't just side foot it. He hits it with the top of the foot, the instep, and the ball just oh, man, it's a beautiful goal. Watch it and watch it back and watch it back, and look at the movement of the Asfar players and the technique of playing everything first touch and playing at pace. But again, it's the pace of the movement, the pace of the players as well, which really is troubling Pyramids here. And Al Fahli, I guess, since he's moved from right winger to striker, has been in very, very good form, and I could see why. Um, so Pyramids, I mean, overall, I'm going to make two tactical observations about them. Number one, struggling with pace and attack. They're old center halves, experienced center halves, but old center halves were struggling with the pace of Al Fahli. Whether that is when he's at their feet, whether when he's making runs in between defenders or over the top. The other thing though is that they were actually not bad on set pieces. I think Pyramids are probably the side, this is off the top of my head, that probably scored the most goals from open play in the CAF Champions League this year. Um, but Mohamed Shibi, the Moroccan right back, he was putting in beautiful crosses. In the 14th minute, Mohamed Merhi gets a header from the Shibi cross, and don't remember if he hits the bar or if it's just a really important save from the third goalkeeper from Rabat, whose name slips my mind right now. Very, very good match from him as well. Um, yeah, the other thing, and then in the 45th minute, Fiston Mayele scores a header, and it's another set piece from again Mohamed Chibi. So, almost two goals from two set pieces in the first half for Pyramids. So these are things that I learned about Pyramids watching this match. Defense struggles with pace. They can attack from set pieces as well, particularly from Mohamed Chibi crosses. So uh, these are really the things that I'm going to be taking with me that I learned from this match. Other than that, it was good to. This is going to sound very weird to say. It was good to see the center half Inonga from ISFAR Rabat crying when he got injured. He got injured in the 30th minute, had to be subbed off, and he was in tears. And I don't think he was in tears because it was, sometimes players cry because they realize I've done my knee ligaments, I've done my Achilles tendon. This is going to set me back for a year and a half. Maybe I'm going to run out of my contract. Maybe it's going to ruin my career. Teams are not going to, trust my physical fitness anymore. That wasn't why. I think it was just a soft tissue injury. He just wanted to stay in the match, and they were so emotionally invested. You could tell the club, the supporters, everybody, that the fact that he just picked up an injury and couldn't contribute anymore, that's why he was crying. And you could watch even at the end of the match, like a lot of the players just, head down, bawling their eyes out, and the supporters clapping for them, giving them a standing ovation, just respecting the effort that they put in. Um, because they would later go on to score a second goal, this one from Joel Bea, in the 82nd minute. Then they were pushing, 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 but Pyramids defended well in the final 10 minutes, and they couldn't add a third. Which is, I predicted that 2-0 was a possibility, but I thought the second goal was going to come even later than this 82nd minute. I didn't think that Pyramids were ever going to be truly threatened, but they were for about 10 minutes. And that's a big, big credit to ASFAR because I said the only time like this match might be in jeopardy is if Pyramids shoot themselves in the foot. They didn't really shoot themselves in the foot. ASFAR just played really well. ASFAR on the other hand shot themselves in the foot in the first leg. So um, yeah, I think Icepar can be happy with the spirit of the squad. They now finished the season strong in the Butola. They're in second place. If they can manage to qualify for the CAF Champions League again, give this new coach Alex Santos time to build. They have a good squad. I don't know if they have the resources to compete with, the top four teams in Africa and make it to the semifinals. But overall, I think they can be proud of their performance this year in the CAF Champions League. Finally, MC of Algiers versus, or sorry, uh, Al Hilal versus Al Ahly. Um, match was obviously played in Mauritania. Al Hilal lined up. I watched the second half of this match, not the first half. When I turned it on, they were lined up in a 4-4-2, which I hadn't seen them play this year so far, I don't think. And it wasn't a diamond 4-4-2. It was a like a flat 4-4-2. So Imam Ashur was playing on the right wing. He who usually plays on, center attacking midfield or maybe on the left wing. He's playing on the right wing. You had Ashraf bin Shirki, the Moroccan signing for in the winter. He was on the left wing, and then you had your two midfielders, Akram Tawfiq and Marwan Atiyah, and then the two attack were Gradisar and Wissam Abu Ali. Gradisar and Wissam Abu Ali. So that was interesting. Al Hilal decided to play Adama Koulibaly, the player that's nicknamed Messi, the young 20-year-old Malian player, as a striker, as Mohamed Abdurrahman, their captain and their talismanic striker, could not play in this match. To be honest, I watched from 45th minute to 57th minute, and he didn't really touch the ball. I don't think I didn't notice him at all. So he got subbed out in the 57th minute for Eme Tendang, the Senegalese creative midfielder. And so they really are playing without a striker. Adil Saleh, he's like a central attacking midfielder. He would like sort of play as a number nine, but he would always drop into midfield. And so it was almost like a diamond midfield or even sometimes five in the midfield. And then the wingers would try to be as attacking as possible. Gira Megisha on the left wing and Mbrasik, the Mauritanian winger, on the right wing. And that's really how they created some of their chances in the 60th minute, El Hilal. Emi Tendeng, who came on in the 63rd minute, or sorry, in the 57th minute. In the 63rd minute, he slips Mbrasik through, but El Shenawi comes out strong, makes himself big, and makes a save there. And then Omar, number three, who's playing deep lying midfielder, he forces a save out of Ishinawi in the 67th minute as well. In the 74th minute, Jean-Claude Guiramegisha, long range shot. We saw him score one of those in the CAF Champions League from 30 meters away, and that goes over the bar. But really, from the 45th minute until then, the 75th minute, Al Hilal are creating half opportunities, no real clear goal scoring opportunities. And that was it. It was like for those 30 minutes because 5 minutes later, Imam Ashur scores for Al Ahly. And it's against the run of play, in my opinion. Al Hilal were taking the game to Al Ahly, being smart, not leaving themselves too exposed, but really, I think, missing that striker. So it's against the run of play. Um, I think it was a really good goal from Ashur because he receives the ball in space and it's just one touch, two touch shots. Not even that the shot was a second touch, one touch shot. And like it's difficult, especially I think he uses both feet. It's difficult when you control with the left foot and then hit with the right foot immediately. He got lucky because the ball was deflected a little bit, and that's what wrong foots the goalkeeper Isa Fofana. Uh, but the technique of I love that technique of control shot, because it gives the defender basically no chance. The defender doesn't know when you're controlling the ball how you're going to control it. If you're going to control it to the left of your body, to the right of your body, if you're going to try to kill the ball, So they usually wait for you to control the ball to get tight to you. But if you can do a bang bang, you don't even give them time, and that's what Imam Ashur did. Defender tried to close him down, deflected, and then the ball goes in the goal. And now Al Hilal unfortunately need three goals with um, 10 minutes to play, and the match is over. In fact, Imam Ashur nearly adds a second just a minute later. Oh, and the celebration from Imam Ashur, oh my God, man. I hate that celebration. I have to stay objective as a journalist and everything, so I gotta calm down, but I don't really like. I think I wouldn't be friends with Imam Ashur. Just don't like his mannerisms and stuff like that. Seems like a kid sometimes, but yeah. Anyways, gotta here to break down the matches, not break down people's personalities. Yeah. Anyways, so no real chances towards the end of the match. I think Al Hilal sort of knew that they were eliminated, but it was a good front run from Al Hilal. After uh, years and years of being eliminated in the group stages. They had very tough matches, or they were drawn in very tough groups with Al Ahly and like other big giants of African football, Sundowns, for example. Uh, they finally get drawn in a tough group again. They make it out of the group stages in a year where, again, there's so much political problems at home. And so I think whatever they were going to do this year, they were going to be absolved of any culpability. But they, I think, actually end up having a pretty good run. Um, a lot to build on. I still think they need a handful of top signings to compete at this stage of the competition. Uh, experienced performance from Al Ahly, mature from Al Ahly. I really felt like tie was never getting away from them. It seemed like they never got out of third or fourth gear. But I just keep thinking they're not what they were last year. They're not what they were last year. But maybe they're still building. You know, they have to really peak at at the right time, really over the next 6 weeks, because that's all we have really left in this competition is 6 weeks. But overall, I think I was just happy to see that of the six teams that played yesterday, the three strongest progressed, in my opinion: Sundowns, Al Ahly, and Pyramids. The three best coaches also progressed: Jurcic, Cardozo, and Koller. So I think it's just good for the semifinals. It's good for this competition that the best teams are getting through and playing the best. So that way we can have, a true measure of who the best is in this competition. So yeah, there's one more match tonight. Obviously, Orlando Pirates are playing at home against MC of Algiers. That's going to be a very, very important match. I'm going to recap that immediately tonight after the match is played. So yeah, if you're watching this right now, you could probably come back on this channel in 6, 7 hours time, and there's going to be a breakdown of that match as well. I just didn't want to wait. I just wanted to get my thoughts out to you guys. I didn't want to wait anymore to really record. So yeah, thank you all for watching, and we'll speak to you all in a bit. Peace.